I'm extremely grateful that you made the time to be here. We are in fact pretty tired because we just spent the entire afternoon putting, I guess you could say, the finishing touches on the Dharmata tab book.
Yes.
And some liner notes and theoretical explanations that Lille is providing for the book. Yeah. So, well, first of all, for the one or two people who may not know who Lille is and what he does, let me just share a little story with you. Remember when we did Fear is the Enemy? When I worked on that, which is my first solo album, as you guys probably know, I had a couple of pretty, internationally well-known studio drummers come in and work for me and record several tracks. And none of that really checked out. Like, we shall not name names, but what happened was that some people just didn't deliver, some just delivered tracks that weren't that usable, some tried to rip me off for money. So I was kind of desperate, and I actually didn't want to include people that I knew well and was kind of working on a local basis. So, but then, I just had to call in this guy. And I still remember the day when we went into the studio. I think we had like one super short rehearsal at your place, and you listened to the track maybe like 1 or 2 times, got the feel. We went into the studio, we kind of piggybacked off another session that was free, so we could go in and just do our thing. And you, I think, if I remember right, you just took 3 takes in total which is an 8-minute song. It's called I Do and I Will. You can check it out. And I didn't have any heavy editing to do, any time stretching, whatever. It was just a matter of understanding the song, understanding the feel, getting it right, and that's it. And I think it's the most musically satisfying performance on the album still. So
that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, definitely. It was like without further ado, Mr. Lille Gruber.
Yeah.
So, maybe we should start this off with just talking a little bit about your background. Like everybody knows that you're a drummer, and that you are the drummer of Defeated Sanity. Yeah. So what else is there to know?
I always tell people, I'm trained in music, and people always think, of course, you're a jazz session drummer guy, and you obviously studied that. And I say, no, I did not. What I did was classical guitar, as you know. And for me, it all started very, very early, because I saw like all kinds of instruments were just laying around, standing around. The whole rock band ensemble was always around, and I could try whatever, because my dad and his friends were all musicians, pretty much all his friends, just how we are, you hang out with Pele, you hang out with me, you hang out with Jacob. Right. Do you hang out with a lot of people that don't play music, metal?
Well,
not many.
Well, I don't hang out with guys who don't play music.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, anyways, and that's why I tried everything out because just you see them play, and then you want to do that as a child, of course.
You did grow up sort of surrounded by musicians because you were growing up on some sort of commune hippie compound. Is that correct?
Yes, that was pretty much where I was born. Not pretty much, I was born there. I wasn't born at the hospital. I was born in a not really hippie but freak musicians community.
Right.
So commune, or how you call it?
Yeah, I guess everybody is kind of
Yeah, what everybody
what that
did
is.
back then,
You know, hippie stuff, right?
hippies. Okay, hippie style. Yeah. Anyways, that's how it started, and uh, yeah, that's why I don't know, but the real fascination came to me when I first heard Megadeth and Metallica.
Right.
That's when it totally, I don't know.
How did you end up checking that out? Did you run by the whole metal thing by accident, or did your dad introduce you to that?
Not my dad. Was my brother. He became like I've heard that song from Megadeth on So Far So Good So What, where it sounds like someone has a car accident.
Which one is that? I remember the song, but what's
502.
502. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That one. And I just heard that in the room when I was, I don't know, 6 something, and I think that did it. And then he became a punk guy, and he, of course, if you're a punk, metal
You
is
don't
shit.
mess with the metal shit. That's right.
And you, then I see the Iron Maiden covers, and I'm like, oh, that's gotta be that stuff. And then I try it, and I'm like, dude, this is too soft, because I wanted to
Yeah.
hear that car accident song,
Right.
you know. Yeah. Anyways, and yeah, that's how it started. My brother pretty much introduced me to the realm of heavy, aggressive music, and then I started to look for all that stuff. Metallica, Justice for All, So Far So Good So What. And on the side, of course, I would hear stuff like Mahavishnu Orchestra, Chick Corea. Then my mom would say,
So that kind of
yeah.
that kind of prog, jazz, fusion background, that came more from your dad's side, maybe?
Yeah, that definitely came from my dad's side, and from everybody, like my stepdad as well.
Right.
Um,
Well, for those who do not know, would you care to explain who your stepdad is?
yes, a great blues, funk, soul, partly jazz guitar player
Like
called
really, really good guitar player.
called Ron Spielman, and I think a few of the drum nerds might have stumbled across him because Benny Greb used to play in his band for a long time.
Right.
Yeah,
All
great guy, great musician.
Right.
Yeah, so everything, the whole environment was full of music. So that's how it was. And to make a long story short, how I started on the drumming thing was, well, how I did not study drumming was actually Ron, who we just talked to. He was like, okay, you're going out of school soon, maybe you should look around to take some lessons, because I didn't take lessons until I was out of school. And then he sent me to a jazz teacher, drum teacher.
Right.
And then I played for him, and the drum teacher said, I'm not gonna teach you because I don't want to bend you, because you're too good in what you do. And
Right, because you had already sort of a
yeah,
pretty established style of your own.
yeah, and I didn't want to be the one that, he didn't want to be the one that forced me to do traditional grip and everything.
Right.
Which I would have loved to get into, but anyways, that was like, I took his word, and then my mom said, okay, you're taking classical guitar lessons then, which was amazing too, because then I learned about harmonies and classical music first and foremost. Not a whole lot of jazz, but yeah, that's how I got to study classical music.
Right. And did you feel that in hindsight you could apply a lot of things that you learned studying classical guitar to what you do on the drum set, and maybe vice versa?
On the drum set, well, I know that I learned how to learn.
Right.
You know.
Right. How to learn the right way.
Yeah. You know.
Absolutely.
It is kind of similar, you know, like I had this sheet with finger exercises, you know, 1 3, 1 4,
Right.
1
When
2,
you go through all the possible combinations.
everything, and then he would tell me like, okay, you do this 20 minutes a day. Then he made me fill out a
Hmm.
form every day. Okay, I did 20 minutes of that, 20 minutes of that. And then alone, like, I wasn't a freak, but the other people that were with me there, they were freaks. They were actually playing for 12 hours a day.
Right.
And then the warm up, it takes 2 hours.
Mm.
You know, they do 30 minutes of just this and then just this.
Right. But isn't it kind of a, again, in hindsight, isn't it kind of a healthy competition thing that keeps you, you know, grounded in that world? Like you don't give up practicing until you're sure that you can halfway compete with your, you know, classmates or competitors.
Yeah, it makes
You know,
you...
music is not a competition. We all know that, but in this kind of learning environment, you know, it's kind of an energy thing, because you know these people are just gonna practice their asses off, and you just don't want to be the one guy who doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, and that propels you forward for a while.
Especially if you really care about it, if you really want to be good.
Exactly. Yeah.
And music was my life, you know. I actually heard from my teacher all the time, yeah, you know, because I started really late with theory
Uh-huh.
and side reading and stuff, so I was pretty bad at reading still. And they're like, what? You can't read? You are telling me you can't play this piece?
Right.
And then I'm like, no, I need some time at home, and then, you know.
Ouch, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah, it hurt.
Well, dude, like you know how hard they were on me when I was applying for jazz guitar, studying jazz guitar, and you know all the better known conservatories in Germany, and I applied, and I got thrown out so hard. The weird dude in the Cannibal Corpse shirt playing fretless guitar. And they were easy on me, so I can imagine.
I wish I would have
beating you got.
I wish I could have a time machine and go back to you and say, don't wear that Cannibal Corpse shirt. Don't play your music. Don't play a fucking Steve Vai song 1/1. That's
yeah,
what
exactly.
you should do.
And you know, obviously, it is a pretty stupid thing to do, you know, in the first place. But that's the, you know, these are the kind of schools that you have to go through. Not just, you know, getting into the school, but maybe, you know, not getting into the school you want to is, you know, a form of schooling in itself. And obviously, in your case, you know, not being the primus in classmate, you know, the primus in class, like not being the best, having to, you know, permanently work on yourself, on your weak spots to get there.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It makes you, I think it molds you as a musician, because you know you have to work on it, and it keeps you on your toes all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I was also rebelling because I didn't practice that much classical guitar, because guess what? I had this album Prelude to the Tragedy to practice on drums.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck classical guitar. I gotta play my drums.
Right.
I gotta play my death metal. That's me.
For those who are not familiar with the whole Defeated Sanity backstory, so Prelude to the Tragedy is the official first Defeated Sanity album. So that kind of happened at around the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, coming to speak about that, would you mind giving just a brief history of the band from your perspective?
Okay. Well, as I said, I was like, my dad was a musician, and we were living in a small village, and from my dad's perspective, it was like weird, and everybody was getting older, not caring so much about music anymore, and he didn't know who to play with, and we just played together, you know, because I play drums, he plays guitar, or I play guitar, he plays drums. That's what we just did, and then
your dad was a pretty wicked drummer, like.
Yeah.
He played me some of the old fusion recordings that his dad did as a drummer. Wicked stuff.
Yeah, and actually, wicked guitar player.
Right.
As maybe you haven't really dealt with, you have heard him struggling with the brutal stuff,
Yeah.
and that might make you think maybe he's not that good of a guitar player. But you should also check out the old stuff where he actually solos,
Mhm.
and he's a wicked traditional style
Right.
guitarist.
Well, I haven't exactly heard it, but I can imagine, how his particular thing would, benefit in that environment, because he definitely did have the feel.
Yeah,
Right.
he had the
How
feel.
to phrase
Exactly.
things and how to, make stand and like certain phrases stand out.
Yeah.
How to palm mute and not to palm mute. All these little details.
Yeah. I'll show you a song where you go like, he's not technical perfect, but the vibe is
Right.
like, sometimes he would bust out like Hendrix kind of
Mhm.
jams. I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like,
How did that whole thing come together with Christian when he was in a band? Did the two styles complement each other, or was it kind of a difficult thing to integrate?
There's not much place for style when you go like
Yeah, it's true though.
especially for a guy that goes like, what the,
I can relate to that.
he didn't. It's sad but true. But like brutal death metal, it doesn't leave a lot of place for style.
That is true, yeah.
It's not about, that's John Petrucci, that's James Murphy, you don't. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
you have
Yeah,
to.
the only place you can do that is in the solos, basically.
Yeah. Well, but my dad was the one that was the expert on that sound you so strongly disagree
That
with.
is absolutely true, and we're going to talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but
continue.
like he was working like a mad scientist on the sound, and Christian had always the same. Like Christian, I and my dad, we always had the same. We know when we like this guitar sound. Like someone puts on Regurgitation, Tales of Necrophilia, we're like, oh, what's this? What's this?
Right.
It's the three of us that are like, oh, we need this. And like all the time when there's a guitar player that plays that fucking, then Christian and I would look at each other. Could be a bad gore grind band, but we're like, let's ask this guy what he's playing.
Right. So you guys started playing together.
Yes, that's how it started, and it started like that, just jamming. Then I would play his songs, he would play my songs. Totally different styles. We tried black metal stuff. We tried free jazz meets metal.
Right.
It's all, you can all hear that on the Bandcamp page of Defeated Sanity.
The old demos.
All
Yeah,
demos.
I heard
I actually posted that today, and crazy stuff. And anyways, at one point we just all realized what we want to do is the really straightforward, ultra brutal stuff. Not straightforward as in easy, but
like a song like Drifting Further is not exactly
Straightforward,
straightforward.
no.
Not at all.
I just mean no. Oh, my
Stylistic.
dying bride.
Yeah,
or,
stylistically,
Yeah.
no discretions.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not saying anything against My Dying Bride, because the first few demos had some of that, and they had some disharmonic orchestra style and sonic or whatever. Like we were taking everything in black metal and
Right.
jazz and Mahavishnu orchestra and everything. We tried to do it, but at one point we were just like caught up in that whole Monstrosity, Suffocation, Morbid Angel, all the brutal death metal bands from the States.
Right.
That was our thing. It still is, I guess.
Right, and then how, at what point did the whole enterprise, just of you and your dad playing and jamming out, become an actual band?
I would say the first serious 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 efforts where when Christian Münzner would start the band, and Tino and Kelly. Those are the other two guys that are on the Prelude to the Tragedy album.
I think I met Kelly, did I?
Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was about 98, 99. And that's when, as I said, we had kind of the style and were expanding on everything and building the style. And that's when we actually started playing shows and recording demos and stuff.
Right. And then afterwards, I guess the whole thing just progressed in a natural way. More demos, more shows, getting signed. Or was there any extreme ups and downs? I mean, except for your dad passing away, I guess.
Yeah. Ups and downs. Well, I would say that the real up was actually I perceived it like that as when I posted the first song from Prelude, Liquefying Cerebral Hemispheres, when I posted on the SMN news.
Right.
That's when we suddenly got something back. Mm-hmm. Like people were like, "Whoa!" People from other countries, from the States and from everywhere.
Well, it is a pretty extreme piece of music, that one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, but that I would say that's when with the first album, that's when the ball started rolling. Mm-hmm. Then for the second album, we already underwent a pretty recognizable stylistic change.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
And for some reason, though, that album today is kind of my favorite album of you guys, which is weird because if we jump forward a little bit to when we first met, I had just moved to Berlin, and pretty much the first show I went to was Suffocation, Obscura, ironically, and Defeated Sanity. Mm-hmm. Was there anybody else on the bill?
There was. I think that was with Wasteform.
Maybe. But
I think it was with Wasteform.
If it was, I didn't. I came in later. I came in when singer. You guys were playing, I think.
Yeah.
Or did Obscura?
I think we were the first.
All right. Yeah. Well, I came in and you guys played, and I was like, dude, this is the most horrible shit. And actually, that was when I was still drinking, and I was pretty,
Yeah, you don't have to excuse yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, I hated it. I thought it was the worst shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. like seriously, like the guitar sound, and the structures are extremely intricate. If you don't know the songs and you can't really hear the details from the guitar sounds, it sounds like a friend of mine. You remember Moritz from Unsoul?
Yeah.
He once said like if you would put it in a negative light, and I know he's a big fan of you guys, so he meant it lovingly, but he said sometimes these guys sound like Lille improvising on top of a vacuum cleaner. So that's what it sounded like that evening. And then you still had Jens doing vocals, and he's doing the ultra guttural thing every time, all the time. And so I remember that after the show we met, and so the first thing I said, you're the drummer for Defeated Sanity. Dude, I fucking hated your set. Or something to that effect, right?
Yeah. I don't remember that. I do remember that you said you don't like what we're doing on Psalms. But
no, I didn't like what you were doing. Period.
Yeah. Well, that's what you heard.
So ironically, here we are in 2017, and here it's me saying Psalms is definitely my favorite of your albums by now.
Oh, that album is like everybody underestimates that album at first. I had people that hated it for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then they've become the biggest fans.
Well, that's basically what happened to me because it's so extreme. Everything about it just you need some time, I guess, if you're not really into that whole sub niche genre, the super brutal death metal thing. If you're not exposed to that on a regular basis, then that album is definitely gonna take some adjustment for your ears.
But I tell you something else. It was badly executed. It was
Okay.
It was great songs, but we weren't on top of our game sound wise.
Maybe, but then again, it has that kind of that feel to it, like a train on the verge of going off the rails. It has this kind of frantic, slayerish energy.
Yeah,
right?
I guess people see it that way, but I just can't
Right.
see it that way. I
Like every song is just like 2 or 3 BPM too fast, right? You know what I mean? Like it's like you're getting it, like
Yeah.
and the tracks are alright, but
Yeah.
you can tell that everybody struggles to get it and that get it right, and that
Yeah.
gives it that frantic energy. Gotta get the riff right. There you go, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Like, I don't have to like the album.
Right. I mean,
People have to like
you're
it.
too close to it. So
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
I'm too
sure.
deep into it.
yeah. Something that I think would be extremely of interest for our viewers and your fans, especially. How do you approach composition and writing music? That's a bit of a broad question, right? So let's specify. One of the most, yeah, I know how that feels. We were just talking about this off camera that it's so much of a relief, if you're doing like a one-on-one interview with another guy that knows a little bit of what you're doing and can relate.
Yeah.
Because sometimes interview questions can be just excruciating to answer because they're extremely specific, and then you have like a one-word answer, and then the other guy is like,
Yeah.
right? Or they can be extremely broad, and then you're like, oh, dude, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
So, I know that you write all the Defeated Sanity material, or like 90% maybe, and there's no, none of these things involved that metal bands these days seem to overutilize, like Guitar Pro and MIDI based composing. None of that. So what's your process?
For me, it's I don't know. My dream has always been there comes a guitar player that has the exact riffs that I want to hear, and then I play all the stuff that I want to hear, and then there's a bass player that goes like, and then there's a drummer, the guitar vocalist that knows all the, But
That sounds pretty neat.
it's awesome, but we never had that. Just because if I want a guitar player that I totally trust, happens to be in Hamburg,
Right.
and he has no money to come here
Right.
every weekend.
He's talking about Christian, who lives in Hamburg.
Yeah, and I couldn't find a singer that lives here, so I have a guy from either northern Germany, which is 5 hours,
Right.
And right now I have a guy that lives in New York City. So
And Jacob just moved to California.
yeah, thank you guys. Yeah. Anyway, so that was always my like. I think that's actually how. That's how Deer's Side or Morbid Angel or whatever that they probably got together like that. I'm pretty sure it happened like that.
At least initially, yeah.
Yeah, but for us, it came down to actually being actual composition. Like composition is involved. I don't write stuff on paper. Sometimes I don't even you saw. Sometimes I don't even know how to write that down, but I know how it is in my like.
Yeah, exactly.
But to come back on that, I'm what people might think that I'm the only guy that writes stuff. It's not like that. The other guys bring riffs to me. Jacob, Christian, even vocalists have done that in the past. But they don't write songs.
Right, they don't compose for Defeated Sanity.
They don't compose. They give me stuff.
They decompose.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
That actually says that in all Cannibal Corpse
Really?
CD. All songs decomposed. Fucking awesome.
That's pretty metal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, they give me some of the ingredients and I, yeah, so like maybe 80%, 90% is accurate that I do the most. And I don't know, right now I can explain it best with examples.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm working on something and it's one riff, it goes like, that's a great riff, but what do I do with it? It's the tonalities in F sharp, because there's some things that are only working with F sharps with open string and blah 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 blah. So I have to write a few other riffs in F sharp. And what do I need to make it a song? I don't know it. It just becomes, first it's a riff, and then it's maybe another riff. Can I use it? Do I really love it? Do I think it's okay? Because it's okay, then I'm gonna throw it out. Or I have to make it awesome. Anyways, then it...
And obviously you always make it awesome. I mean,
obviously. Well, it becomes a pile, Right now it's like a pile.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're lucky, you can put ties between riffs, and then you can decide, like sometimes it's what I decide is, okay, what structure do I want? Do I want an A-B thing and then move forwards from there?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want to make a free-flowing thing that has no repetitions? Or there's so many different things, but if it's in the beginning, if it's just one riff, that is the beginning, and then I just play. I play the songs and I try this and try that, and it's all shit. And next day I love it, and day after that I hate it.
Sure, we all been through that.
Yeah, but I play it every day and I don't write it down. Mm-hmm. It's all in my head. And then, like, I've written 2 songs that I say they're done.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is I go through the subway and leave my MP3 player at home. And I think about the songs and I think about what can I play on the drums. That's pretty much the process. And then once the drums are done and by the way, also the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Where's vocals in a riff and where's no vocals in a riff is from the beginning. I know that.
Mm-hmm. I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah, that's to me. With too many bands, you can hear they don't think about that and they write some stuff and then, hey dude, can you just? Yeah, I was just.
I have exactly no experience whatsoever with that.
Yeah, and
definitely none of the Tech Dev albums I've been on.
Well, but the songs haven't been written with vocals in mind.
Yeah, and I think you can definitely tell by the placement. There seems to be very rarely the case of the infamous, dead space. You know what I'm talking about?
What's dead space again?
Dead space, like when when you hear especially a metal song, and then you sometimes have the impression that the vocal lines are just, they don't belong. Either they're just there and they're just space, like wasting space, or there's like endless repetitions of or piles of awesome riffs, but the vocals have no relation to it when they finally come in.
I actually have the feeling, even with harmony based bands, like some power metal bands, where you think, oh wow, great guitar player, but then the vocals are just, it feels like a nuisance, like they're just noodling the pentatonic.
It's true. Yeah, it is a very particular thing, because in pop music everything is based around the vocals, and it has to be. That is literally the most important thing.
You can learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, oddly enough, in metal bands, sometimes, or so often, especially with like more beginner type bands, the vocals are just the last thing in the chain. They're like it's the last guy to come in, the last guy to be thought of in the compositional process, to be involved. And I always ask myself, why is that? What I think is really fascinating about, or several things that really fascinate me about the way you work. But the first thing is that you have a very interesting sense of harmony and melody, even like especially in the genre of brutal death metal that you specify in. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, how that works for you?
Well, as you said, melody is a good word. Tonality too, like.
You could even say voice leading, because that is definitely one of your strongest suits in writing parts.
Voice leading, I've learned pretty much everything I know from Johann Sebastian.
There you have it, folks.
Because I played, like, if I really liked some music I played on classical guitar, it was Bach. And I don't know, if you study the music and if you're really into composing, then you think like, okay, let's pick a note that you don't like in this piece.
Right. There's none.
No, fuck that. And that since I've seen what that guy did, I was like, why would you be satisfied with anything less?
Exactly.
I think that's what it takes to create true art.
Well, I agree. I've seen a lot of bands and I've worked with a lot of people who don't agree, and that's fine too, but that is definitely something I think you should aspire to, because you spend so much time working on that shit, playing that stuff and rehearsing it and putting everything into it, regardless if you're a beginner band or a pro band, that's, you could do so much, more fun stuff in your life at that time than constantly obsess over a piece of music. So why would you, not want it to be as good as possible in that kind of way? Yeah,
but the voice leading thing is a important thing for me. Like recently, I've started thinking about, not so recently, but I don't want to move everything in the same direction. I want to start.
Like as in classical voice leading, where you have to avoid parallels.
Yeah.
Right.
And
in classical counterpoint.
Yeah, but it's not really like that. It's parallels can be. I think it's not avoidable if you play death metal to move. You have to move things parallelly, or it's not death metal anymore. But to spice it up with decent little exceptions. That's what I try to do.
Okay. What I also find fascinating is that, and we were talking about this a lot this afternoon when we were working on the tab book.
There.
Exactly. And pretty much all the parts, all the riffs that you write, they do have a key center. Somebody like with a classical or jazz background will just like of course, why wouldn't it? But in this kind of music, which is 90% atonal music, that's pretty much unheard of.
Yeah, because people don't think that far. People don't think it's important, but to me, like, I hear if someone does that,
Mm-hmm.
and I fucking love it if it works. I listen to Symphony X, and I know, oh, these guys go from the verse to the bridge, and they modulate into a different fucking key, and then from the bridge to the chorus, they modulate to another key, and then they come back, like, what Symphony X always does.
Well, they're the masters at that.
Yeah, insane.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Anyways, but it's not only that. It could be something way fucking more primitive, and I just love. Could be a hardcore riff.
I don't know, like repeating the third chorus, like a major second above, something like that, something simple.
Yeah, I don't know, and even little things that I know they choose the riffs right. Recently I've discussed that just Led Zeppelin, the Immigrant Song,
Mm-hmm.
just how that whole simple as fuck thing is constructed and how it works, and
it works perfectly.
Yeah, and the intervals and the vibe they create, and just these little things. It doesn't have to be Bach. It can be a fucking hardcore song that's just the exact right power chords that work perfectly with each other, and of course the drum beats, everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think is fascinating is how you work within Defeated Sanity, because that may not go for every band member, but especially you and Christian, there's no notation, no tabs, no nothing to go back to if you want to revisit an earlier tune, except for your mind. So you guys just play it all from your musical memory.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like a session with Christian to learn a new song basically goes like this, with guitars, 8 hours a day, eat one time, breakfast, blah, 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 make few breaks, and that for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then he has one new song.
Mm-hmm.
Or we create something together.
Right.
But then he has it, I have it anyways, and we do try to write it down, like we write it in a note,
A notebook?
Note paper.
Yeah. I like in notational paper.
Yeah, but I write tabs down.
Okay. I see.
But most of the times
That's something new. I haven't seen you do that ever.
Yeah, we did that, but it's just for the worst case. We try to hammer it down and play it over. And what we do is play together over and over and over. Play a riff. Mm-hmm. Like that. I think that's not what people don't do anymore. I have the strong feeling that there's no 4 bars riff, and the guitarist just loops the thing over and over and over and over again, and the drummer tries to come up with the best fucking groove,
Right. Well, that's because nobody's playing in a room anymore,
Yes.
to come up with stuff at least.
Yeah.
And if they do, it's all to a click track and like to pre-programmed MIDI backing tracks and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with it, but that seems to be the norm these days. And I remember just having that exact same discussion with Derek Roddy like the other week. And I think that is something that he feels strongly about as well. That kind of bothers him, because people just don't. They come to different conclusions and to different ideas. Let's put it this way. If you work like that, so I don't know. I guess the Defeated sound and the development of that if you guys play in a room regardless on what kind of equipment, it's got to be Defeated Sanity.
Yeah.
That comes from that kind of working
Yeah.
environment.
And also, if you play a riff together and it has a squeal in it,
Right.
you know what I want to
It's
say?
got to have a squeal in it.
Yeah. But anyways, if it does, and I'm like, no, I want it like this. And he's like, no. Like, you talk a lot about specifics.
Right.
I hear so many people, guitar pro people, that have no good. They show me that they don't work on detail like that a lot.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, those are some of the most important things. Like, as I said to you, in brutal death metal, there's a lot of just playing and no style. But if something is standing out like for a longer time,
Mhm.
then it's gotta be extremely good.
That's right. Absolutely.
Same with a shredding guitarist.
Mhm.
Like, what I hate to hear is,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like they can
And
play
all
fast.
the
or
hard
whatever.
work is completely in vain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in
exactly.
vain. It's
It just kills it. And just something that really stuck with me when we were working on and first rehearsing the Dharmata material together, just the two of us. It just stuck with me how good your musical memory is. Because I remember we were first running through the song Return to Samsara, which is an 8-minute song, and we kind of, we managed to get through it, and we played it, all the way through. And so there's a fuck ton of notes in that whole song. And then afterwards we were done playing that song, and you were like, yeah, that was pretty good, but in that one part, remember, that specific one part, I think that one note, that F sharp, it's supposed to be an F, and it's one of those riffs where you're going, and so that kind of, I may be paraphrasing this a bit, but that kind of attention to detail is what you're talking about, and that really stuck with me, and I think it's what's oftentimes sorely missing from the music scene these days.
Yeah. Oh, you mean by that I want the note there, or that I hear that the note?
That you hear, in an 8-minute song with a lot of information going on, that you are able to hear that at the same time you're playing your drum parts, and you hear that.
That's why I play them shitty, by the way.
Well, you didn't train wreck them, that's for sure, but you were able to play the part and at the same time be extremely aware of what's happening around you. And I think that's an extremely important musical skill to have. Something that I would love to have, more of. So I think that's...
It's I see that sometimes when I teach kids. I see the different types of musicians or wannabe musicians or whatever. Some can't react to the outside. They just, like, even if I go like tak 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 tak, they completely ignore that and just do their thing. And sometimes there's people that listen too closely and then they get insecure.
That's true.
And that's me.
Ah, okay.
I listen to, I don't like this, and why did he do this, and then I fuck up. I'm too attentive, I think. I think sometimes to stay a little bit more selfish and straightforward can be better.
Well, I guess there's the balance to be reached along the way.
There's the sweet spot, of course.
So, let's wrap this up and conclude with the questions that you guys have been asking on my Facebook page. So, let's see what they come up with. El Guitarista Simon asks, is it possible to see Lille Gruber on guitar and Hannes Grossmann on drums in Defeated Sanity?
Yeah, that's That's
Okay.
actually a thing that I've been like thinking about. Like, how would it be? Christian and I were like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if we would find a great drummer, and the both of us could play the brutal stuff together.
Right.
And there's always going stuff through my head, how else I could play music, and I think of a few drummers that could do what I do, or do it a little bit different, but that it works, and of course that would be awesome, to play with Hannes, or play with. I was thinking someone that has a pretty similar style to me was the guy that plays session drum for Equilibrium. And,
Really?
Yeah, and he plays for Viscera Trail. He's from Israel.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Never heard of him.
Hati is his name.
Okay.
Great drummer. I was thinking, like, if that guy would be here, I would be jamming with him right away. Like, and I could finally, I would just play the songs and I don't have to deal with the double work,
Right.
So yeah, him and who else? Obviously Mike Heller. I was like, whoa. Mike Heller on fucking drums and me on guitar.
Man,
that would be fun.
That would be a good hang, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be. Well, you know what I mean. That it went through my mind, but I guess I do know that I have I don't think too much of myself as a high speed fucking death metal drummer.
Right.
With all the double bass problems and but I think I am pretty unique of a player, so it would be hard to find somebody to do that. But yeah, I would love to play guitar in Defeated Sanity.
Shall we continue?
Yes.
So, let me scan through those really quick. You're well known for playing drums in Defeated Sanity. Are there any noteworthy things you do as a musician besides extreme metal? Unusual styles of music, an instrument that you play but no one knows about, etc. By Thomas Niehoff.
Recently I did like... Okay, it's funny. I used to play with my dad in the beginning, even in Defeated Sanity. And recently I played in a band with my mom. Because she also, of course, she was also in their community and stuff. And she played the organ in a all-female band back then called Harem.
No shit!
Yes. And
that's awesome.
That's an awesome band name, actually. Anyways, now she, like her and a few of her friends, put up some kind of Balkan music.
Like a klezmer thing?
No, I don't know. All I know. It's just there's no 4/4 there.
Okay.
There's just
Yeah,
7/8, 9/8, 5, all that 11.
Right.
Anyways, and that's that was something I was doing like recently just for fun, and they were, hang out with mommy. That's what I've done, which was cool. But to be honest, I would love to do much more things like that. I would love to try out playing jazz. Just get my foot into it.
Right, you definitely could.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I could, but I don't find. As I said, I don't get my foot into the door. I don't know who would be up for that, because the hardcore jazzers, they're like.
Yeah. It's kind of a closed environment.
It's a
really
closed
hard to get in
environment.
there. It's true.
Yeah, so I would love to do that, but I don't do too much of that.
All right. So next one. I'm curious how you both think technical death metal can continue to evolve. So much new material seems like carbon copies of what went before. How can the genre continue to grow without endlessly repeating itself? By Rudiger.
Um, I I kind of prepared to answer to this question over the years
Right.
because it's what I have to think about if I want to write technical death metal. And my answer is actually to not take influence from only what you hear, but also what you know about music. Like, do you know how to use quintuplets, sextuplets, septuplets? Do you know all the counterpoint shit? Can you make shit better? Like, I don't know. You know, can you make an album with technical vocals? Technical vocals. Has anybody ever done technical vocals?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
And that's what I'm working on right now. And I think people have to ask themselves these questions, and they have to actually know what they're doing, and work hard, because you can't do jun 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 jun. That riff was awesome when Suffocation did it 1991, but there's been 100 bands that have been doing that, and I'm sorry, the time for the necrophagist worship is, because you said tech death, it's getting, time is running out.
Yeah, I hear you.
You gotta come up with some good stuff.
Yeah.
You have to answer too.
I don't know. I think I'm not a big fan of the whole technical thing per se, because I think it's just people trying to give themselves like a get out of jail free card for writing music that has no emotional content. And as probably everybody watching this is aware that I've been working on a lot of music that would be considered tech death.
Yeah.
So in my experience, it just you just in order to do music that fits in that genre and is actually adding something to the canon, you just have to shift your focus to not be technical, to just write good songs, good harmonies, good melodies, and have actual good ideas. Because honestly, I mean, this may sound kind of harsh, but I think 99% of what's out there in the tech death genre doesn't have any good ideas. It has, you know what I mean? Like, a good idea is not, hey, let's put this A minor sweep arpeggio here and just, write a gravity blast part, and then the rolling thunder double bass part followed that, and it's just so much of it is just different combinations of the same ideas, and it's always other people's ideas. So very rarely do you hear a band that has a unique identity and ideas completely their own. And I think if you have that, then you can make it as technical as you want to. You can make it as non-technical as you want to. It's gonna be great music, whatever it is. So I think that should be your priority, not whether it's tech death or whatever, And I love the great, examples of the genre, like everybody else. But that's why these are the go-to bands that everybody adores, and all of the rest is maybe just not quite as good, quite as original, right?
That's how it is.
Yeah. No offense to anybody playing tech death out there. Just just don't focus on the if you have if you play technical death metal, just don't focus on, you know, how squarely you can put yourself into that niche or cater to a certain audience. Just focus on writing the best songs and coming up with the best possible ideas. Yeah, and again, I've been saying this tons of times before. If you don't have something to express, don't do music, right? Like, you have to have some, you know, content, emotional content or intellectual content that you want to share with other people through your art and your music. And if you don't have that to begin with, then don't bother. Just wait until you have it, because everybody is unique and has a unique perspective. And sometimes it's just not the right moment to express it, or you just don't have the tools yet to communicate it. Yeah. All right. Thanks very much for watching.
See you.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for the pizza again.
Yeah. That was a good pizza. So,
Yeah.
bye-bye. Take care.
Goodbye.